All right, let's start weight types, part one. And we're going to be looking today, the first part of the series, at the types of weights. There are three basic types of weights. When we talk about weights, we're talking about things which are not being completed immediately, and depending on how you monitor these with the systems, you may or may not have a collection of what's common or what is not common. And we'll talk about that in a second. That's going to be very important because if you don't, it's going to be much more difficult to troubleshoot. So there's three basic weights according to Microsoft here. The first one is resource weights. An example of this would be like a disk weight. Okay, it's trying to weight on the disk. And these weight on resources that are not available at the time of the request, right? There's a bottleneck on your disk and a process has to wait on the disk. There you go. Okay, there's also queue-based weights. A queue-based weight is, think of a queue table where you have records being put into the queue table, and those records have to be processed in a certain order, but they're basically kind of backlogged, all right? And according to Microsoft, these are generally seen with system tasks, okay? So keep that in mind. And then finally, we have external weights. And an external weight, think of a linked server like a call to Oracle or an IBM iSeries box. And these weights are pending an external process, okay? So when considering weight types at the beginning, in the back of your mind, you should know the following. The first one is what is normal for your system and what is normal for this database or process. For instance, if you come to me and you were to say, hey, I'm having an async network I/O weight, and I was to pull up your system and say, okay, well, show me the history, because, I mean, why is this abnormal all of a sudden? I mean, something could have changed in the application, right? Because that's generally where we're going to be looking, is the application layer. What's changed in the application layer? But what if that's always occurred? Then that's not an unusual weight, right? So if you don't know what's normal for your system, the first thing you need to do is start collecting a baseline, okay? And otherwise, you can't answer the question as to whether that's normal or not. That's not to say that if you see something like that, you shouldn't be concerned if that consistently comes up. Maybe there are some tweaks that you can make to your application to improve the performance. But the point is you can't answer the question if something is normal or abnormal if you have no idea. Number two, how can you simulate the same issue in a test environment? Because, for instance, in that example, if we want to tweak the application, we obviously don't want to be messing up production. It's not a good idea. I've been in environments and with clients who had no test environment at all. And I understand sometimes the limitation, but you have to realize if you can't simulate something without messing up production, trying to change things in production on the fly raises the risk of bigger events, right? Dig down into this further. Where is the issue occurring when you do have a test environment? For instance, you would not troubleshoot a bottleneck to a linked server to Oracle the same way you would troubleshoot a disk bottleneck, right? A lot of the queries that I've debugged over the years that, for instance, have dealt with a linked server, I'll give you one of the biggest problems I've seen with linked server queries. Some person will write a query, select star, they'll do what is it, select star from open query, the linked server, and then in the linked server query, they'll do select star from or whatever. And then they'll apply a filter on the T-SQL query. And I'll ask them, okay, so when we're looking at the, let's say it's an Oracle query. When we're looking at Oracle, do we want to return the entire record set of the Oracle? Oh, well, no. Okay, well, then let's put a where clause and let's filter the Oracle data, right? Because it's going to return that Oracle data, right? But if I write a good query for Oracle and it returns that small set of data, let's say it's only 1,000 records, then T-SQL is only going to be filtering further when it does its join on a SQL Server table with 1,000 Oracle records. It's a lot smaller than if I select the full 1,000,000 records from Oracle and then do the join on T-SQL, right? It's absurd. And I've seen that. And I understand some people don't think that way, but you're not going to troubleshoot, let's say, that query the same that you would troubleshoot a disk bottleneck, right? And then the other one here is what have you tried? And I put here, don't ask, try. I've been asked a lot of questions over the years, and it's very difficult to work with someone who hasn't tried anything. It's very easy to work with someone who's tried. I mean, think of it as try 3 different approaches, right? This is what I say with query tuning. When somebody says, hey, I just need my query tuned, and I'm like, okay, what other 2 ways have you tried besides this query? And they say, oh, I haven't tried anything. Okay, You shouldn't come and ask me, right? You shouldn't ask someone for help. You should be able to do 2 or 3 attempts, because that way you can explain this is what you've tested, and that way we don't go back over something that you've already tried, for one, and two, it reflects that you have some knowledge. It's kind of like when you see a select star from where, and there's not a single index on the table or whatnot, or it's a complete misunderstanding of how indexing works, like dozen equals. And it's like, okay, that's a pretty basic question. So learn to try some things on your own and fail on your own, and then ask for help when you can't get anywhere, because that's one of the first questions that I like to ask someone is, well, what have you tried? And there's a lot of talented developers I work with, like right now and in the past, who, I mean, they'll come to me, and these are application developers, excuse me, that are not familiar with T-SQL as much, but they still are very good at trying other approaches. So consider that as well.